Question 13 is one of my all-time favorite SAT questions across however many tests I've seen, however many years. This is one of the best. And the reason is it's so easy, and yet everybody gets it wrong. Everyone. It's ridiculous. So why? Well, first of all, they ignore the difficulty, right? So this is one of our strategies. It comes up every once in a while, and it's important. Sense the difficulty. Know where you are in a section. The SAT is trying to trick you at times, but not everywhere. And so if you know where you are in the section, you also know how likely that there's a trap answer. And so here's the trap. Here's what most people do. At a restaurant, n cups of tea are made by adding tea bags to hot water. If t equals n plus 2, how many additional tea bags are needed to make each additional cup of tea? Well, plus 2. That's right there in the question. So this is what they pick. But that is so obviously wrong if you've taken SATs or studied SATs. It cannot be that a question 13 out of 15 in the multiple choice part of this no calculator section, it cannot be that I get this answer without showing any work or without thinking about it for more than 2 seconds, right? There's no way that the answer is just the one number that's in the question. Impossible. So that is a big deal. If you are picking stuff like that, you are not taking an SAT. You are still taking a math test, and you are missing the point of what's going on here. You are not playing by the rules, and they are using the rules to get you. You've got a sense when you're falling for stuff like this. This is really important. And so maybe that doesn't get us the right answer, but it at least gets us out of this bunch of gullible people who fall for the trap answer. But there are plenty of ways to get it. I'm going to go through 2. What most people, I think, have trouble with here is understanding what they're even really being asked, right? This question doesn't make a lot of sense. So what should we do? Well, whenever we're confused by something that involves algebra, it's much better if we can understand that algebra in the real world. So this is where the arithmetize strategy helps, right? We have an equation for making tea, but if you've made tea before in your life, I bet you didn't use an algebra equation to make it. You just made the tea. So let's make some tea, right? So if n cups of tea are made by adding tea bags to water, so let's just say that I'm making 1 cup of tea, right? Then according to the equation, I would need 3 tea bags. Now, I don't drink a lot of tea, but that doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. But I don't care. This is not a cooking question. This is a math question. So I don't care that it makes no sense that I need 3 tea bags to make 1 cup of tea. No, that has never happened before. But fine. Doesn't matter. I'm following the rules. And the rules now say, the question is now telling me a new instruction. How many additional tea bags are needed to make each additional cup of tea? So we made 1 cup. We need to make an additional cup, right? So let's make now 2 cups, right? 1 additional cup, following the instructions. Now, in order to do that, I would need to plug in 2 for n, and I would end up with 4 bags of tea. So how many additional tea bags did it take to make 1 additional cup of tea? Well, the difference between 3 and 4 is 1, and 1 is an answer. And it is the answer. So there we go. We've proven it by making some tea using a stupid formula, but I'm not the judge of the formula. I'm working with what I'm given. So there we go. I think that is a perfectly valid way to get the question. It's maybe a little time consuming, but it gets us the answer. And honestly, at this point with these hard questions where we know that there's traps, we want to do whatever we can to prove our instincts right. And so in this case, I think we proved our instinct wrong and still got the right answer. And so the proof is what matters. Taking the time is what's important. However, we can get this faster by using another strategy. Get back to basics. Basically, if you see a question, it's about tea, it's not really about tea, right? It's about something else. It's about some math topic that you've actually learned in school. I doubt you did a semester on brewing tea. So this is about something else. And so we need to ask ourselves, what is this really about? if I were to put this question in a chapter of a math textbook that I was writing, what chapter would it go in? What would be the title of that chapter? That's a good question to ask yourself. And so now we start looking at the math itself, and we see, well, we've got an equation. What kind of equation is it? Well, it's got two variables, no exponents. Those kinds of equations come up a lot on the SAT. In fact, they come up a lot in math. This is a y equals mx plus b equation. It's a line. So if we know it's a line and we know that it's going to follow the y equals mx plus b format, we can kind of line things up, right? T presumably is the y, n is the other variable, so that's the x, and then plus 2 fits in with b. So let's match them up. The y-intercept is 2, whatever that means. N is the x, y is the t. We got a problem. What's my m? Do I care? Well, probably, because look at the question, right? We know that if we're dealing with a line, they're probably asking for one of two things. They're either asking for the y-intercept, the b, or the m, the slope, the rate, the change, the increase or the decrease. And what does the question say? They want to know how many additional tea bags are needed to make each additional cup of tea. That sounds a lot like a slope. Increase, additional, right? These words are linked. They mean similar things, and that should draw our minds to this idea. And so that means I need to find the slope of this line. Well, we know from normal lines that if I had y equals x plus 2, the slope may not be written, but it's there, right? There's a hidden 1 attached to that n. We don't write it because 1 times anything is just the thing. So 1 times n is n, 1 times x is x. We don't bother writing the 1 because it's extra. It doesn't help us in any way. But that's what they're doing here. You know that. They know you know that, but they've taken that piece of information and just twisted it up in this way that you kind of just forget. And the other answer, 2, seems so good that you don't even bother to think about any other possibilities. You are so quickly convinced that 2 must be the answer that you don't even entertain any other possibilities. And that's why this question is so great, is it lures you in and you don't, before you even know it, you're totally lost and you're falling for the trap. And so there you go. In get back to basics terms, we also come upon the same answer by understanding slope and finding that hidden 1 that is there. The arithmetize showed the 1 to us, right? We could see it, but it's also there in algebraic terms. And so I don't think 1 is better. I think it's really whatever you can come up with, but you need to sense the difficulty from the start. If you're not sensing it, you're going to fall for the trap, and you will come back to this question when you review your answers and be surprised that you got it wrong because it seems so obvious in the moment. And that's why our instincts aren't really great on hard questions, is they're using your instincts against you. Obvious answers are potential problems. They might be right, but we need to take the time to prove it, or we're going to lose points on stuff where we totally could have gotten the points and gotten the question right.